Hello witches, wizards, and those who are yet to receive their Hogwarts school letters, welcome to my Harry Potter kitchen. This is the YouTube series where I'm baking my way through the Harry Potter books, making recipes every time we find an item of food and drink. If you missed last week's recipe where we made our own Wizarding World pumpkin juice, then make sure you check out the link down below in the description to catch up. And if you're new to the kitchen and you want to see some more Harry Potter inspired recipes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell, then you'll get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new recipe. Speaking of which, I'm feeling a little peckish, so let's head back into the chamber. We are almost at Hogwarts, so let's head back to chapter 5, the Whomping Willow, to find out what's next. So the boys can now see the castle and they are making their way down, but suddenly the car seems to lose control. Ron ends up breaking his wand and the car dashes off into the Forbidden Forest, so Ron's pretty worried that his dad is going to kill him. They manage to then sneak by the castle. They can see all of the first years getting sorted and they also spot Ginny, but then they are caught by Snape, and he's taking them to Professor McGonagall and Dumbledore. Dumbledore's let them know that Professor McGonagall will be deciding their punishment, and that's where I can see our next recipe. Come Severus, there's a delicious looking custard tart I want to sample. Looks like desserts are back on the menu. If you'd like to recreate these magical Portuguese custard tarts, then all the ingredients you need along with the measurements and instructions are on my website, bradleybakes.co.uk. The link is down below in the description. Dumbledore is looking for custard tarts, so today we're going to make what can only be described as the ultimate custard tart recipe. This is for Pasteis de Nata, also known as the famous Portuguese custard tart. If you're in the UK, you might have seen these before. The Nando's custard tarts are Pasteis de Nata, and there are even loads of cafes and bakeries dedicated to the Portuguese custard tart popping up all the time. So definitely go out and try them. And if you can't find any locally, then I'm going to show you how you can make your own at home. This homemade Pasteis de Nata recipe takes a few steps, but it is definitely worth the end result. You get this lovely light and flaky puff pastry filled with this sweet egg custard. And I'm going to show you how to make your own pastry, your egg custard filling, and how to bake it to perfection. A little fact for you as well is my great grandma is Portuguese, so this recipe is going to be me getting in touch with my Portuguese roots while adding in some Harry Potter magic. Okay, first up we need to make that Pasteis de Nata pastry, so this is what you need to do. To begin making your pastry, you want to pour your flour into your bowl and add in your salt and cinnamon. Stir through and then make a well in the middle before pouring in your water. Use the knife to bring this together until it starts to form a dough, and then use your hands to gently knead it into a ball. You want to make sure it's nice and evenly combined, but be careful not to overwork it, otherwise it will be too tough. Once it's come together, pour out onto a lightly floured work surface and then roll it into a rectangle. I'm then going to wrap this in cling film and place it in the fridge for about 10 minutes to firm up. This is an important step to make sure that the gluten strands can relax again so it's easier to roll. So while our pastries are chilling, we're going to move on to making our egg custard filling. And this is a really easy egg custard recipe. You can also make it ahead of time, as we're going to let it cool down completely anyway, so you can always make it, keep it in the fridge, and then it's ready to go when you want to create your Pasteis de Nata. Now, Portuguese custard tarts have a signature cinnamony flavour. So what we're going to do is create a cinnamon sugar syrup so we can get as much of that flavour in, and then we'll infuse that into our milk and egg custard. That way we don't risk burning all of that milk just to get the cinnamon flavour. This is what you need to do. To make your easy cinnamon sugar syrup, place your sugar, water and a cinnamon stick into a pan on a medium heat. Gently warm this up until it just starts boiling, and then you can turn off the heat. Remember, you don't want to stir your sugar as it heats up, as otherwise you'll cause crystallization. So if you do need to, then just swirl the pan to help the sugar dissolve and let the heat do the magic. Remove the cinnamon stick and then place your sugar syrup to one side to cool, and then gently warm up your milk and your cream. Next, you want to take your eggs and separate these out, as we're only going to be using the yolks. Place your yolks into a bowl along with your flour and vanilla, and then whisk together until it forms a smooth paste. You then want to take your slightly cooled sugar syrup and slowly pour that into your egg mixture, carrying on whisking as you go so you get a nice smooth consistency. You then want to take your hot milk and do the same, slowly pouring it in, whisking while you go, and then you'll have your egg custard. Just to make sure we catch any pieces of cinnamon or egg that haven't been fully incorporated, I'm going to pour the custard through a sieve and into my jug, and then place some cling film over the top, just touching the surface to make sure a skin doesn't form. Leave this until it's completely cooled, and then you can keep it in the fridge until you're ready to assemble. To roll out your Pasteis de Nata pastry, you want to begin by lightly flouring your surface. Place your rectangle of pastry down, and then you want to carefully roll it out until it's about ½ an inch thick. Try your best to keep it in a rectangle shape. We're then going to take our softened butter, which has been left at room temperature for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to use 1/3 of this to spread along 2/3 of the pastry. Try your best to visualize where 2/3 of the pastry comes up to, and then apply a generous layer. I found it's easiest to do this in dots all around and then spread it together. Once you've got a nice even coat, you want to take your unbuttered piece and then fold that over the middle. Dust off any excess flour and then fold the buttered piece over the top. To make sure none of the butter spills out, you want to press at the top with your rolling pin to seal it in place, and then work your way down to remove any air bubbles sealing the bottom. Rotate the pastry 90 degrees, and then we're going to roll it out again into another rectangle that's also ½ an inch thick. Repeat the process, laying over the next third of your butter, folding the pastry, sealing it into place, and then turning 90 degrees. Now we're going to roll it out one more time, but instead of just placing the last bit of butter onto 2/3, we're going to spread it over the entire pastry. Once you've got a nice even layer, you then want to start rolling the pastry towards you. If it's stuck, then you want to get yourself a little scraper to help you remove it from your worktop. You want to try your best to roll this as tightly as possible, and once you get to the end, roll it back and forth to seal it in place, and try to get the diameter down to about 1 inch wide. I'm then going to chop this into 2 just so it's easier to fit in the fridge, and this needs to chill for about 2 hours, but I'm going to leave mine overnight. So we've got our chilled pastry and our custard filling, so now it's time to assemble our Pasteis de Natas. Now for this, it's going to be a little bit fiddly as we work that into our molds, but just take your time, I'll walk you through it step by step, and the best thing you can do is just cut up your pastry first. Any excess that you're not using, you can pop into the fridge or the freezer, and then it won't melt too much while we work on the rest. Take your time and you'll make sure you get a lovely flaky pastry and a really deep custard filling. This is what you need to do. Once you're ready to assemble your Pasteis de Nata, you want to take your pastry out of the fridge and then cut off any of the rough ends. You then want to take a sharp knife and cut it into 1-inch rounds. Lightly grease your cupcake or tart tin and then place a piece of pastry in each. Here you can see those beautiful swirls of the butter that we laminated with the pastry, and this is going to help us get those lovely flaky layers and also a Pasteis de Nata signature swirl. You want to leave this at about 10 minutes so it's nice and pliable, and then dip your fingers into some water before pressing each piece of pastry towards the bottom. Work your way up the sides until you get a nice even case. Take your time and be careful not to split the pastry. Once they're all prepared, you then want to get your chilled custard mixture and fill each tart case up to about 3/4 of the way full. You then want to carefully transfer these into a preheated oven, and you want to go as high as your oven at home will go. Mine is about 220, but you can even go up to 290 degrees Celsius. And what we want to do here is give the pastry a chance to go lovely and golden brown, the custard to cook through and just start blistering, and it will still be slightly wobbly when you take it out. For a final piece of Harry Potter decoration, we're going to pop some lightning bolts on top with a cinnamon and icing mix. Combine the two in a bowl, and then I've also got myself a little stencil. Place this over each of the tarts and then dust your cinnamon icing sugar mix over that. And you're done! These magical Harry Potter themed Pasteis de Nata are complete. So our recipe for homemade Pasteis de Nata or Portuguese custard tarts are complete. If you've never tried these before, I cannot recommend them enough. So now you know what you need to do. Give this recipe a go and let me know down below in the comments what you think. That is all for this week's recipe, but if you want to see more from my Harry Potter kitchen, make sure you hit that subscribe button, click on the notification bell, then you'll get an alert every Magic Monday when there is a brand new recipe. I've got a lot of custard tarts to tuck into, so I'll see you next time. I'm going to catch this one like a golden snitch. All in one. Victory.